today I want to bring you a video that is going to go through 7 steps to creating a program and or goal. So I'm going to be using the example for reference of creating a goal for a child that interrupts inappropriately. So let's say you're a parent or you're a professional or a teacher and you have a kid that's constantly interrupting you when you're on a call or when you're on a Zoom meeting or when you're engaged speaking to someone. That will be our example and our reference point. The first step I'm going to go over is socially significant. So I believe it's very important to take the first step of making sure that the goal that you're targeting or the behavior that you're targeting is something that's socially significant. So I do have a little story of this. It was a few years ago, actually quite a few years ago. I was providing service, ABA service, to a kiddo that has autism, and he was about 6, 7 years old, very verbal, a lot of skills, but some deficits, of course. Between myself, I was the BCBA supervisor, between myself and the therapist, we decided after about, 6, 8 months that, wow, he's learned so much. What else are we going to teach him? So we literally went based on like a Vineland or a Daisy or something like that. And hey, what goal is appropriate? We pulled the goal of him learning to do chores. Now, the acquisition rate or the learning rate of this kid did not match what we saw in this goal over the next few weeks. So we saw this goal not really get much better, not being practiced outside a session. However, this kid's acquisition goal or his learning style was more of a like pretty quick upward trend. And so finally, after I didn't, know what was going on, I talked to the parents about it. And guess what they told me? We don't expect our kid to do chores. We don't believe in our kid doing chores. In our culture, we don't believe in a male, especially a child his age, having to do chores. And so, even though I thought it was a really great goal, and for somebody else, maybe the kid next door or my own kid or your kid, that would have been an excellent goal. Train a child at 7 years old to start, taking care of himself as far as like doing minor, chores. For this family and this kid, it was not socially significant. So, short definition of socially significant is something that is relevant to the child, their environment, their life, something that is going to be able to be targeted and maintained even outside of the time that we work on it. And the reason why it is targeted and maintained is because this particular goal and skill helps this child to be able to access reinforcement in their environment. Back to our example, this kid did not get any reinforcement out of doing chores. He actually kind of got punishment, as far as punishment only meaning diminish the likelihood of this behavior happening again, because he'd be, trying to pick up his clothes after himself or, taking his clothes to the washroom or something. And his mom would just grab it out of his arms, or his housekeeper would just grab it out of his arms, hey, what are you doing? Go play, go learn something, So we want to make sure that it's a goal that is going to be naturally maintained, as far as like it's going to be reinforced in this child's environment, even if it's not like it's going to be reinforced by him feeling proud. This kid would not have like if he's like, hey, I'm proud of myself, I took my clothes to the dirty clothes in the laundry room, he wouldn't have even felt that pride about that intrinsic reinforcement, because that was not an expectation in his household. Okay, so relevant and also a skill or behavior that is going to help that child to be able to access the rest of their environment. So, like teaching a child communication helps them to access the rest of their environment. Teaching a child social skills, being able to attend or to their name or, different things like that, helps them to, in different environments, be able to, somebody called your name, look, and now they get to give you information or that sort of thing. So it needs to be something that is appropriate to this child's life and their community and their household. Okay, number 2 is state the maladaptive behavior. So simply by that means being able to verbally state and articulate what is the wrong thing here. So back to our kiddo that is interrupting when an adult figure or authority figure is otherwise occupies. What is the child doing wrong? Being able to verbalize what is the child doing wrong. Johnny is interrupting a conversation. Okay, Johnny is not interrupting a conversation appropriately. So should he not be interrupting at all? Or is it that he's doing it in an inappropriate way? Or is it that he's actually climbing on his mom's back while she's on the phone, or slamming down the Zoom screen while she's, on a meeting? So is it that he's doing it inappropriate? Is it that he shouldn't be doing it at all? Is it that once mom gives that gesture, he's not responding? So being able to articulate what is the wrong behavior, what is the maladaptive behavior. Once you're able to articulate that, then articulate what is the correct behavior, what is the correct skill. This is very, very important. It seems like it might be very obvious or common sense. However, in that whole scenario of the child interrupting, there could be many different correct behaviors given the situation. If it's a 2-year-old, we may want them to not have a tantrum in the middle of the floor, but to, tap mommy's leg and say, "Mama, mama, mama." That's okay if it's a 2-year-old, right? So that might be the correct behavior, not having the tantrum, but doing the, manding instead. For a 12-year-old, it might be, "You see me on the phone, do not interrupt at all." For a, 8-year-old, it might be, "You see me on the phone, you try to interrupt me, I give you this sign, and now you go find something else to do." For another kid, it might be, literally, I'll give you the example. I have a sign on my office door at home that is, "Do not enter." If it's really important, knock. My kids can read. And so that's the correct response. Don't come in here and try to be behind the screen and get my attention, or, knock on the door if it's really, really important. Otherwise, wait. So being able to articulate exactly what is it we want to teach the child. If we aren't able to articulate this and to verbalize this, guess what? We get to wanting to teach the child, and now, we're like, "Oh wait, we're going to make him just completely wait. Oh wait, why'd you interrupt me? You shouldn't interrupt me." And then it becomes very confusing and kind of convoluted to the child. What am I supposed to do? What am I not supposed to do? And it becomes very frustrating, and it's much harder to train and teach the child what to do if we're not exactly clear on what it is we expect or want them to do. Number 4 is identify the function of the maladaptive behavior. So we talked about maladaptive, that just means the wrong behavior. What's the function? In this example, child interrupting, it could be child is interrupting because I need something and I want you to give it to me. Okay, for access, child could be interrupting because I want something, you never let me have it, but I know on the phone, if you're on the phone, you're going to let me have it. Still access. Child could be interrupting because they know that when you're on the phone, you're going to do whatever it takes to keep me quiet. And now we have a 12-year-old trying to sit in your lap when you're on the phone, because they know that as long as they're quiet, you're going to, give in and give them that extra attention or that inappropriate attention or whatever. So being able to identify what is the function. We need to know the function because that's how we decide what are we going to teach the child to do instead. Okay, number 5, stating the goals or the prerequisite skills that are needed. For example, if we're wanting to be able to gesture to our child, we're on the phone and we gesture to the child like that, and we want them to be able to wait. Guess what? We have a waiting situation, and also we have the child is understanding, receptive idea of, when I put my hand like that, what does that mean? So we have to make sure before we jump in and say, "Hey, I'm just going to do that," and he waits, that he understands what that gesture means, that gesture is the same as you saying, "Wait a minute, hold on a second," and then that he's able to understand that, and now that he has the skill to actually be able to wait. So making sure our kid has the prerequisite skills for the ultimate goal of waiting. If we want to teach the child, "Hey, I'm on this phone, don't bother me," then we need to make sure that we've trained the child not just to recognize you're on the phone, which is one skill they have to have, but to also be able to redirect himself or herself to something else to do. So to identify no is like, mom is not available, dad is not available, teacher is not available, but this is what I can do instead. So those are a few goals that go into that. But if we're just like, "I'm on the phone, why does he keep bothering me? He needs to just go away." And if we've never taught, "Hey, when you go away, this is what you do," that's a prerequisite skill and goal to be mindful of. Otherwise, guess what? It all falls apart when we try to teach it and train it. Number 6, identify and plan how we're going to teach. This means that we can't just wait for when we're on the phone call in an important situation, because guess what? I'm on the phone call with my boss. What am I going to do? I'm probably going to literally go back to doing whatever it takes to keep you quiet so that I'm not embarrassed. So we need to think about, how are we going to contrive opportunities to work on this? In ABA, it's all about repetition, right? Repetition, reinforcement, and extinction, right? How are we going to contrive and create this opportunity so that the kid gets practice, practice, practice? And in that practice, when I do it wrong, mom, dad, teacher is able to calmly extinguish, right? And not be like, the kid sees a response. What if it's attention? Naturally, we just gave into that. So coming up with how we're going to contrive opportunities, how we're going to prompt through opportunities, how we're going to reinforce, and that sort of thing. And our number 7 is differential reinforcement. So identifying, what is the alternative? What are we going to reinforce instead of the maladaptive behavior? And also coming up with a function-based extinction plan. Is this something that we are just going to 100% shut down, extinguish, or how are we going to actually work on that? So hopefully those 7 steps, I'll go through them really quickly. 1, is it socially significant? 2, stating the maladaptive behavior. 3, articulating the correct behavior. 4, identifying the function of the maladaptive behavior. 5, stating the goal and skills or prerequisites needed. 6, planning and identifying how we're going to teach. And 7, DRA and extinction, function-based extinction. I hope this is helpful. Thank you so much for watching.